Hello, you, but my English is so bad.
Ah,
You know, one of these days I'm going to figure out what the hell I'm doing, but I haven't figured that out yet.
me too.
I mean, really. Anyway, Richard, I've got a bunch of stuff. Um, you don't collect old show badges, do you?
I have a bag full of them, but
I
unless
have
they were famous people,
I have a crate full of them from way back in the early 80s and up. I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds of them.
well, you make a good point because it's the background that I could collect those. I could scan those. You know, we scanned them once and we've got them forever.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be happy to send them to you because my wife is going to throw them out or throw me out. So, but I've come across a bunch of old stuff. Quite honestly, I didn't know I had it because I hadn't straightened out my basement in 25 years. But found a lot of the SGIA stuff from way back. Found my golden squeegees from the very first and second shows, and then a bunch of same thing from being judges and stuff like that. Anyway, I'll put together a package for you. I need you to send me your address and stuff.
Easily done.
Terrific. Aaron, how are you doing? Thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm doing fantastic. Looking forward to chatting with everybody.
Well, who knows how many others are going to show up, but here we are to start with. So we have Cesar from Mexico and Gustav from Sweden, which
International affair today.
huh?
International affair today.
Usually it is.
Yeah.
Never know who's going to show up or how
Sure.
many are going to show up. Then we got Charles, who is now moving into the ranks of heavy video and educational stuff.
Yeah, I've seen his YouTube stuff. Charles, you're doing some awesome stuff, man. I love it.
So do I. I think some of it's great. How come you never let your wife come on? I mean, during this, I know she's on the videos with you. Not getting an answer. I don't blame you.
She's over at the store right now. That's why she's running the store.
He's
Oh,
work.
well, somebody's got to do the work. Obviously,
Yeah, that's
you're
right.
not.
She's dealing with the customers, and I'm playing with the fellas.
That sounds like you got the better deal.
Yeah.
I would agree.
You won the badass content.
I
Didn't you?
did. Yeah.
Yeah. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you, Yosa. Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I ever learned how to do videos correctly, I'd probably give it a whirl. I always needed somebody else who was doing the shooting. I could never seem to set it all up myself. One day, or probably not, who knows? One of those things. So Aaron, what are you up to? I know obviously you have your podcast on Fridays.
Yep.
So why don't you give us some of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I know most of these fine gentlemen here, but just to give everybody a background, yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be in this industry since about 2000. I started with all of our friends, Scott Fresner, back in early 2000. In fact, the Super Bowl was playing as I was driving from Colorado to Arizona to go out there. And so it that was my start into the industry. Before that, I was in the digital print world. And that was really new at the time. So I was selling printing that for somebody that had a Heidelberg a direct to plate machine, which was relatively new back at that point. So I've been in this printing industry for a bit, but then to get into the t-shirt world happened in 2000. Got to spend a great deal of time with Scott, traveled the world, do all the fun things, got in direct to garment there. As Scott likes to call it, the bleeding edge is where we were at sometimes, you know, and it was fantastic. I couldn't be more blessed to have had a chance to spend that time with the Fresners. From there, I actually ended up here in the St. Louis area. I came to work for a company called Coastal Business Supplies, and that got me into the sublimation and digital transfer, cut vinyl, that kind of stuff world. I helped them kind of develop. They also had a secondary company called Imaging Supplies Warehouse, where they not only were a distributor themselves, but then they were a master distributor of other products, including the Oki printers and some of that. So I was able to do that for about 9 years, and had a great amount of learning and things that I saw a whole new level. I went from my experience with Scott, kind of learning, you know, getting into the T-Jet machines. We were kind of learning how to be manufacturers and things like that. And then going to Coastal, I got to learn all about being a distributor and what warehousing and all that's all about. I've always kind of been involved with dealer networks, and so I did get to travel a ton, so that was always great. So from there, left there, helped a wholesale print company get started called Pick the Gift. And so now I finally got onto the print side of this whole thing, where I was actually involved with being a printer, which I had never been at that point. I got to work with lots of great printers, but had always been on the vendor side until this time. Got to the print side, we were doing full, basically 100-inch wide by as long as, so we blankets and cut and sew and all sorts of different wholesale sublimation items. And that was a great learning experience, a lot of fun. I was able to do that with a couple of good friends. And but as that progressed, I just got to the point where I knew that I needed to be doing something a little bit more that was for me, to kind of check the box for me, to build my own culture, to build something that meant something to me. I'd been fortunate enough to be doing the Two Regular Guys podcast for a number of years. And so this last January 2020, I started our success group with my friend Todd Downing. And so finally, it's all me, it's on my shoulders. And scary as that may seem some days, we're trying to build a company that we can really feel good about. So what our success group does, and I'll be done finally here, is we provide training, business foundation training, working with a lot of micro businesses and new businesses coming in to help them, understand their numbers, understand how to price, give them a nice marketing foundation, business planning, that type of thing. And then the other piece that kind of I didn't realize was as important, but the more I work with folks on this, the other piece is the mindset side of it. So I was able to become Success Principles certified. This is the book here, Jack Canfield's The Success Principles. And I became Success Principles certified January of 2021. And so that's the other side of it, the mindset, believing in yourself, understanding why, just kind of getting these basic life principles in place that really help small business owners succeed too. So that's my, as quick as I could go, pitch or what exactly it is that I'm doing.
For us. So are you, the industry obviously had Mark Vennett, who was doing a lot of marketing and stuff. Are you going to get involved with that kind of situation as well?
We find that just laying that foundation piece is a really good start. There are lots of, the thing that we noticed is that there is a ton of great education training, from specifics, people doing specific things, to all of the great stuff that you can find on YouTube. What we've kind of decided is our area is just staying in that foundational piece. So yes, we'll talk a little bit about marketing, but like to just go, okay, we're going to do specifically marketing, probably not. So what we talk about, again, is more around the business planning, the knowing your numbers, the how to price products.
Okay.
And so some of the pre-marketing stuff, everybody wants to jump in and go, how do I do this Facebook ad? Or how do I make this funnel? Or how do I do all that stuff? But nobody ever gets that foundational piece of who the heck are your customers? How much does it cost you to get those customers? How much does it cost you to make that product specifically? all that kind of stuff. So we'll stay in that area because we also find a lot of use in kind of the mastermind idea and working through stuff. So we'll start getting deeper as we go, but for the most part, I think you'll find us staying with those startups and the micro businesses.
So, and you're keeping it all within the screen print community or the print community, I guess?
Yeah, the decorators community is, we know that there's a lot of ground to cover there. I mean, I think that what we do can translate to other industries, but I love this industry so much, there's really no reason to. We definitely work with a lot of sublimators, a lot of heat transfer vinyl and transfer folks, because there's just such a low barrier of entry over there. I mean, I can be a sublimator for less than a couple $1,000s. But what that normally does is that normally attracts the people that don't really have that foundation that they need. And I've just, for however many years that I've been involved on the vendor side of this, I spent years and years watching people, spend all of their money on this equipment, their life savings to get into it, and just struggle mightily because they didn't focus enough on building up themselves and learning to be a business owner.
I totally understand that. You're finding a lot of new companies are coming in now.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys all know, whenever there's an economic downturn, our industry tends to blow up on the new business side. It is what it is. Again, I think it probably has to do with that low barrier of entry for a lot of folks. So yeah, there's a ton of new business. When I was with Coastal, the owner there used to talk all the time about, and this was kind of his bragging point, and for good reason, they were doing a good job. He would say, they got 30 new customers a day. But the question I always asked was, okay, but how many of those people are actually, becoming successful? How many of these people are we helping become successful? Because what I could figure out from the data was, even though we were getting 30 new customers a day, repeat business, was very small. So we were probably easily losing that many customers a day as well. So that was I guess the tipping point for me is like, okay, I could certainly help somebody get a sublimation printer. I can certainly help somebody, direct people to Charlie to learn how to screen print, that kind of thing. But to see them succeed, there's just this other little piece that I think that they're missing. So that's what we want to do.
Now, I totally understand that. When I owned a supply house, we would do an open house every year and invite a bunch of the industry speakers to do presentations specifically to assist those that wanted to learn new things. But we always involved someone to do marketing as well as technical seminars. And, getting the new customer, everybody wants them. The biggest trick was always in keeping them.
Yeah.
And what you have to do in order for them to stay in business, basically.
Yeah.
This has always been a funny industry. As the recessions hit, this industry booms.
Yep, exactly.
Which is kind of weird because when we were getting in a lot of quote unquote business people, they saw the recession hitting and they backed off. And it's like, no, this isn't the time to back off. This is the time to jump forward. They couldn't grasp the fact that we did well in recessions.
Yeah. Well, and you saw it in 2020. I know a lot of companies actually thrived. I mean,
yeah,
I can list several people that have told me that they actually had their best year in 2020. And, so it does kind of boil down to, what are you going to do? And I would say that all those people that said that they thrived in 2020 had a good foundation, right? They knew why they were doing it. They knew who their ideal customer was. They knew exactly what their costs were. So they could pivot, they could, do things to help their local community. They could sell masks. They could do all of those things like on a dime because they had all that foundation in place. And I think that says something about our industry. It's very versatile. It's very adaptive to be able to pivot and do things like that. And you know, expense wise, we're not a commodity, right?
No.
I mean, we're not selling something that's a commodity. We're selling something that has value to it. It's a memory. It's a, you know, all of these other things, and it's not a commodity. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people get into this with that commodity mindset, and you know, and a lot of times they'll actually kill the market. That was another reason to kind of start our business, is we also wanted to make sure that these new people coming in were good stewards to our industry. You know, we don't want people coming in that are just gonna, oh, how do I price this? Oh, just multiply times 2. No, don't do that. You know, we don't want people doing that, because that'll kill the market for other good business owners. So yeah, it's, our industry is so amazing, but you know, we just need to support those people at the bottom and raise the tide for everybody.
What I found interesting during this whole pandemic is um, the companies that went out were probably many of the companies that were just barely hanging on or didn't have a plan. That's not to say every one of them went out on that level, but what was interesting was when you had to become when you had to change your whole approach to what you were doing, uh, the number of companies that jumped on it immediately got into doing masks, so they were considered a business that had to be open.
An essential. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, essential business. You know, screen printers had great opportunities, and I was always amazed how many of them didn't do it, which I found very puzzling, because besides doing masks, you could then do everything else. Not that you were doing tons and tons of it, but
No, but
it
yeah,
kept you afloat.
correct. Correct.
And,
Yeah,
and
it was, you kind of watch people, like you said, and again, I know there's mitigating circumstances to everything, but like you said, the people that really did struggle, they seemed to be the ones that sat on their hands. You know, they didn't have a plan. They were nervous. They were scared. The people that were aggressive and you know, did as much as they could inside what they knew and inside of their plan. You know, to me, that's what having a plan is all about. It's that decision making process, because if I've got to sit and think about a decision for a long time, I know I'm going to make the wrong one. But if I have a plan in place that tells me, okay, if this matches this, say yes. If this doesn't match this, say no. If I have that plan, I can just make those decisions. And then, like I said, I just feel like every time I have to think really hard about a decision, I ultimately end up making it wrong. So if I just put some sort of a guiding light, a plan in place, have that mission, that why, it makes that decision-making process a ton easier for me.
yeah, you know, sometimes I think having a year where things are not quite the way they should be is not a bad thing. You know, we unfortunately, this is an industry that has too many people who do come into it without a plan, number one. But number two, they're working out of their house or out of their garage, which is not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're pricing themselves as though they're in their house and garage, and then when they grow and have to go into larger space, they get blown away.
Yeah.
You know, my whole thing was always, listen, base it on the fact that you are hoping to be in warehouse space.
Yeah.
And the extra money that you're making, great, put it in your pocket, but don't go killing the market around you, because you can be the lowest in town. And then all of a sudden find that when you move, you're now more expensive than anybody else and you're out of business.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I giggle when you say that, because that's a constant that we hear all the time. Oh, well, you know, I don't have overhead. Well, you do.
Yes.
You know, and like you said, you need to be planning for that future. You need to be understanding that at some point. And the other thing is, when you're new and you're starting up, when you're planning to be able to, you know, grow and expand, that allows you to do the things that, you know, you have that one job that doesn't go well and you fail. Well, now you've got a safety net. But the people that just went all in and were just going to, you know, be the cheapest in town, they don't have that safety net, and that big job's going to kill them. Or like you said, when they're ready to expand, they're not going to have the capital to be able to do that. So I 100% agree. Even if you think that you don't have any overhead, there is a cost to have your business open every day, and you should plan for that. And the biggest cost people miss is they don't plan to pay themselves.
Funny that you say that. When I went into business, which was stupid because I'm a terrible business person.
Bye, Richard.
But when I went in, my ex-partner was a royalties accountant for Dell Publishing. And the funny thing was, we didn't keep books for 3 years. He hated accounting, and that's why he got out of it. I think that with a lot of people, they don't understand overhead.
Yep.
And so when I go into a shop, one of the things I try to do is get them to think about everything that it's costing them to put that key in when you put the key in the door, what did it cost you?
Yeah.
And there's an absolute cost every day. And then the question is, what are you going to make today to knock down that cost?
Exactly.
And I don't think most people think about it when they first get into business. I certainly, I left that to my partner, which was probably the dumbest thing. Well, I've done a lot of dumb things, so I can't say that that's the dumbest thing. I think coming into this industry was probably the dumbest thing, but here it is 45 years later, and this is what I do.
Yep.
I was probably not bright enough to know how to get out of this industry. But
I feel like it's like Hotel California, Charlie. I have no idea if we can ever leave.
I think it's like Groundhog Day. It's like, it's a repeat on a regular basis. But at the same time, I mean, I love this industry, and this is really what I'm all about anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's amazing because I do a fair amount of startup companies, and I'm sometimes just puzzled about why are you coming into this and you have no idea what you're going to do.
Sure.
And I mean, Sean, for example, already knew what he was doing. This was just an add-on to what his business was about. No, I don't mean that you knew how to print, but you already had a business going, and this was just going to be an addition to it.
Yeah. Had a plan.
The person that comes in that used to be involved with digging ditches and is now wanting to be a screen printer, the question is, why are you doing this? I mean, yes, I know t-shirts are really cool and everybody wears them.
Yeah.
But how are you going to get your business? And what are you going to charge?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the one I love, Charlie, is people always, when I ask them, okay, well, why are you doing this? And they always say, oh, to make money. And I just think that one's hilarious because it's like, okay, there's so many other things you can do to make money. You go get a job and let somebody else worry about all the crap. So now let's ask that question again. Why are you doing this, right? Let's get down into the actual weeds of, is it something about the creativity, being your own boss, all this other stuff. But again, if it's just to make money, then you're in the wrong place. There's a lot of other ways to make money. So you got to think about that.
The old story, how do you become a millionaire in this industry? You start with $2 million and then you end up with one.
There we go. Oh, I'm going to borrow that one. I love that.
But, I'm always amazed how many people do come in, hang out for a year or two. And, all you have to do is stay on Facebook and some of the groups, and you notice people selling off year-old equipment that really hasn't been touched. And the question is, why not? Why did you blow, 5-10 grand getting into this industry, and then you did nothing?
Yeah.
So you're making it wonderful for somebody who's buying your equipment. The question is, even a person buying your equipment, do they know what the hell they're going to do with it?
Exactly. You could probably couple iterations down the road get some pretty unused equipment. It feels like at times.
Pretty much. I'm always amazed. I mean, I'm talking to somebody now who wants to add screen printing in, and they're, when you talk to someone and they actually have a understanding of why they're going to do something, it's such an easy situation to work with, because you can recommend the appropriate equipment because of what they want to do.
Yeah, that's and I just remember for years and years and years going to these trade shows and like you said, talking to the same people that had come back, they'd bought something the year before, they came back and they're like, I'm thinking of getting rid of it. And again, it just kind of always melted my heart, kind of going, I know that was a big, huge investment for them. And now here they are, trying to get rid of it. So, and I think sometimes when we talk about having a plan, though, that's scary for people. That feels like a big step, and it's really not that complicated. It's really there's 5 key things that you need to kind of get in place, and it all starts with that whole idea of why exactly are you doing this? What's it for? Beyond making money, right? That there's got to be something else beyond making money. And so once you have that, then everything else can kind of start falling into place pretty quickly.
Yeah. No, it's funny when and obviously a number of us do trade shows. I do a particular one for ISS, which is getting into screen printing. And as part of that whole university thing or whatever they called it, I'm always amazed when I have a bunch in there and it's kind of like they're looking at digital, they're looking at screen, they're looking at embroidery, etc. And they end up going with digital. And then a year later, they're in my basic class. And the question was, what happened to your digital? Well, it didn't work out. And it's like, they had no plan. They had no understanding of what they were getting into. They thought they were going to hit the button. It was going to produce the shirt and they would make their money.
Yeah.
And it's like, nothing against digital, because I think it's great if you understand what you're getting into and
Sure.
who your market is and how you're going to market yourself, etc. And for the most part, I'm amazed how many people have blown $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 on something that they just didn't understand.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Richard, mute your phone, Richard.
Charlie, if you hit the participants tab, you can mute him. Too.
Now here he
Hey,
goes.
Richard, mute your phone.
There you go. So
All right.
you're off to lunch, Richard?
He's looking for it.
I
On the phone.
we got you on that. Oh, well.
So a lot of us got into the industry because we like the people. Right, Charles? We got great people in this industry.
The people make me happy.
You're talking about the people in the industry or the customers, though? That's the
Oh, no,
question.
people in the industry.
No, it's never the customer. Are you kidding?
And I think that's what has made Facebook groups so full in our industry, is that opportunity to have those conversations about the customers, right? That like, oh, can you believe this? The war stories. But
Yeah.
yes, I would agree, Sean. The people have been fantastic. I've only been in this for 20 years, so all the people I've been able to meet in 20 years are nothing short of just amazing people. So.
No, it's been a great ride.
Yeah, I'm quite new in this part of.
Huh?
I bought in some of those couple of years old equipment just the start of last year,
Huh.
and I bought a big format printer, a Roland, and I just started to do a lot of signs, and I do stickers, and I do but this I have to show you. This is what I got as a customer now.
Nice.
You're doing
Yes.
Yeah. I closed them today.
All right. Congratulations.
Awesome. That's great, Yosta.
Yeah.
I got into this doing rock and roll, bootleg rock and roll. What was funny with Kiss, because we actually did the designing for a company in London called Mobile Merchandising. And they ended up doing all of the groups legitimately. So we were still doing some of their designing. What's interesting with Kiss, when Kiss was going to Germany, we had to change our logo to rounded S's because in Germany, the double S is against the law.
Yep.
Okay, so and we're back in 1970s, and it was like, really, it's their logo. It's like, yeah, they'll confiscate the shirts and burn them up because it's contraband.
Wow.
It says,
And even today, you can't do the double S's
Nope.
in Germany. It's against the law.
Wow.
and
I
it should
did win
be
an award on my KISS shirt from back in the I guess it's about 1979, 1980. Although we were bootleggers, we were so good at it that we had a company come to us who needed to do KISS shirts legitimately, and they didn't know how to print black or how to do the separation. So we did the separations and printing for them. I entered that into the very first Golden Image Awards and won a bronze on that particular shirt. And that hung at SGIA headquarters for I don't know how long, and then they finally got rid of it. I wish they had called me because I do have a photo of it because we entered it in another show and won an award with that one. And so I do have the brochure that shows the particular shirt, but KISS was always an interesting group to deal with. Anyway, so you're doing all the posters for them or for that, for the marketing, for the merchandising company?
No, just this poster for this show, because the special guest is my daughter's stepdad.
Uh-huh.
So then he said, well, we have a guy who prints here in Sweden. So, and I sent in some tests and now it was approved. So
terrific.
Cool.
But it with the help of you guys to determine color, tweak the printers, and build up confidence.
So you're
doing the right math, so not biting myself, in the behind.
Are you going to be doing the posters for other groups also, or for that merchandising company, or just for this one-shot deal?
I'm open for suggestions, There's one foot in that part, because I do merchandise stuff for dog and horse shows. We have been doing that for many years by the embroidery machines, and now we added other techniques for the same customers.
Yeah.
So we have a huge customer stock, but we do a lot of new techniques for the same customers.
Sure.
So
and
then we have these dog show or dog competitions in our place. You've seen the herding and stuff that I show you. So then we do all the prizes and all the things around that. But now these last years we expanded out to sports events and now this music stuff as well. So
great. But you're still not screen printing?
No, not yet. I'm gonna screen print the box this year, I promised you.
You've got some great opportunities. You should be considering getting onto it.
Yeah, but you know how small Sweden is. There's more people in a suburb to London than there is in the whole Sweden.
So what?
Yeah, we have a lot of.
Somebody in Sweden is buying T-shirts.
Yeah, but you also know we have one of the top screen printing offices in Sweden. That's really good in screen printing.
I was friendly with Anders Nelson, who is president of FESPA. And as a matter of fact, we went to China together. And he's a fantastic printer, but he doesn't do T-shirts either. And you do have some very good T-shirt printers. I forgot the particular company. It'll come to me. That was doing a lot of work years back. But there's always room for competition.
Yeah, it's gonna be now because like 4 big setups
I think,
has closed down.
okay, I think it was Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Fox.
Yeah.
I
But
believe. they were-
there's two big sports suppliers that has just closed down, taking down the sign this year. So there is a little room. Yeah,
Yeah.
little room. But I have my stuff, my customers, and I'm the biggest problem to a great life is a good life. So, and I have a good life. Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So Charlie, what else is new? What are you seeing out there as we kind of start coming out of the pandemic here?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I haven't done much of anything during the pandemic. I did a little bit of consulting in July, and I did one about a month ago. What I am seeing though is the companies that I deal with here in Denver and the surrounding areas, they're busy as hell. You know, they're definitely, I mean, some of them are having their best year ever. I think part of it because when the pandemic hit and they furloughed a bunch of their employees, the ones that they brought back were the ones that really wanted to work. And any of those that were kind of slackers, for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm.
they just didn't ask them back. So what they found was their top line wasn't as good as in past years, but their bottom line was better. Those who did work and are working are excited about getting up in the morning and going to work.
Yeah.
Literally, where in the past, you know, this was an industry where on Monday morning you'd go in and half the shop didn't show up. You know, I mean, back in my day, we would run into that, especially we would pay on Friday, and by Monday, the only reason they came in is because they needed to borrow money to get through the week. So what we did was we started making payday on Monday, which the employees hated, but the wives loved it because they actually had money. Whatever they had left on Friday, they could drink away over the weekend, and that was fine because Monday they would get paid again. But because of doing it on Monday, they always showed up on Monday because it was payday.
That's a good idea.
You know, it's one of those stupid things because I don't understand why Friday always had to be payday, and in most companies it is.
Yeah.
I thought Monday was so much better because they'd have to show up, and then there was no reason not to show up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love that idea. Yeah, I don't know why Friday has to be payday either. It doesn't think probably it was just, you know, you got to the end of the week and you did your work for the week, but it makes no sense not to change it to Monday. I like that.
Well, you know, I thought that it was a better incentive. It actually gave them the opportunity to have the money they needed during the week, and whatever they wanted to piss away over the weekend, well, that was fine because they were going to get paid again on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
But,
great.
you know, in thinking about what's going on in the industry, I mean, certainly, I think everyone buckled down a bit. They had the opportunity to do some R&D work. They had the opportunity to really go through their customer situation to see who was valid, who was not. I think they made a lot more decisions that were towards the future of where their business is going. And,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you get so wrapped up, you're so busy, you don't have a chance to really think about what's going on. And I think the pandemic actually made you step back and take a serious look at where you are, where you're going,
Yeah.
what you have to make adjustments with. And, you know, especially if you had a company with a number of employees, who was really performing and who was just kind of there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I talk about that all the time, this concept of, the working on your business versus working in your business. And like you said, everybody was just so busy, they were constantly working in their business. And then the pandemic gave them that time to kind of work on the business. So my hope is that people are seeing the value in that. To me, I tell people you need to allocate 15% of your time as a business owner to working on the business, to having that, like you said, step back, let's review, let's understand who our top employees are, how we need to improve them, what do we need to do for education. But all I'm asking is 15%. And until 2020 happened, that was like asking people to give me their firstborn child. So now that
You can have mine if you want, but that's okay.
okay. Well, there were a couple of offers that I turned down, but so no, it's been interesting to see that change in people. And like I said, I hope they realize that there's actually a ton of value in that for them. So if they can figure out a way to make that happen once we get back to full speed ahead, it'll be interesting to see.
What I found is one of the things I always pushed is to do R&D work, and of course, it was always difficult.
Yep.
There was always a reason not to, and I think during this whole time period, you had the opportunity to play with new techniques, new procedures, make some decisions about what works, what doesn't work for you. And I did find that certainly a lot of the companies that I did stay in touch with did exactly that. They had the opportunity to do some R&D, and they actually did do some of it. I think that's part of what you have to do in this industry anyway, is to stay on top of what's going on. And there was always a reason that you didn't do something because you were too busy. that kind of went away. Just because you tried something and you liked it, you had to then see if you had a customer base for that. But even if you didn't, at least that was one more thing that you could offer. Whether you actually sold any of that or not didn't really matter. It was the ability to go into a shop or into a place of business and sell a variety of situations.
Sure. Well, I think within that R&D side of things, Charlie, it also allows you to kind of make sure that your procedures are up to snuff. And, is there wasted movement? Is there, I can't tell you how many times I've kind of gone to a business, and whether from a consulting side of things or just starting a new job somewhere, and the whole, well, we've always done it this way kind of thing comes up. And I mean, people just live by that. We've been keeping this same book for 20 years, but yet it basically gets whatever written in it and then goes on the shelf and nobody ever touches it again. You're like, can we get all that time back? So that kind of R&D stuff too, just, improving your processes, I think can be really valuable for you.
Yeah, the whole thing about we've been doing it this way for years is like, really? So you're still driving a horse and buggy? Because
Exactly.
I mean, we did it that way for years. And the reality is, and I'm certainly not a big techie guy, but here we are on a computer. I mean, matter of fact, I gave away my first laptop to one of the guys in the industry. It was a Texas Instrument laptop that must have weighed 6 or 7 pounds or more. And it was the amount of guts in it was kind of funny. We downloaded a number of programs. The only thing that we could actually open up was a golf game. So when we were on planes, we would play golf on it because we couldn't open it up and get anything else out of it. But this is certainly a situation where you have to step back and say to yourself, okay, so I've been doing it this way for years. Why?
Yep.
Okay. My biggest thing in this industry, and I always love posing it, is, okay, so you're pulling the squeegee. Why? And you know what? The answer is, oh, because the guy who taught me was doing that. Well, the question is, why was he doing it that way? And they never have an answer. And then the question is, should you be pulling or should you be pushing? So I have my whole rundown on it, which I'd be happy to share with you guys.
Yes, please do, because I don't know. I don't know the answer to that either.
Okay, so here's why people pull a squeegee. Back when I got into, back in the early days when I got into this, I owned, I started out on the long print tables, okay, which you-
Yeah, the back, they got great chemistry. Yeah, those two, I miss those two. Because anyway, when you study that.
Go ahead and mute Marsh. You hover over his name. There you go.
I just did. Okay, so back when I got in, I started out on long print tables. And if you've ever printed on a print table, you know you have to pull the squeegee because your screen sits up against an angle iron rail. And you have to pull. If you tried to push, obviously your screen would move away and you're out of register. Well, once automatics really started getting into play, and even my first one was a Precision. Back in that time frame, Precision offered a 4-color, 5-color, or 6-color, and that was it. And Advanced Process Supply offered pretty much the same thing. Advanced was a round machine, Precision was an oval. Well, the companies that had all the print tables were the first ones to buy automatics. That was great. And they also had to pick up manuals in order to do some fill-in work and in order to do some playing around. Okay, I bought my first manual a year. Well, I started out on tables. I bought a manual, a Vastex, as a matter of fact, through Advance, and we did one job on it because we needed to get out 100 dozen 5-color shirt, and we realized, you know what, this is not going to work. So that moved to the corner, and that was that. But the people who were on print tables, when they got a manual, of course they pulled because that's the only thing they knew how to do. They're the ones who taught the next generation, so to speak, including me. I pulled the squeegee. Years later, Don Newman came out with his constant force squeegees. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. I still have some of those. Well, with the constant force, you had to push, because if you pulled the squeegee, when you lifted the screen, there was nothing. Couldn't use it that way. So you had to push. And in pushing, one of the things you started to realize was your wrist didn't hurt as much, your arms didn't hurt as much. And if you pushed correctly, you just kind of leaned into the print and you let your shoulders and body do the work for you. And it wasn't a muscle thing. So what was funny is when I did a show in Mexico City years back, the FESPA show. And what I was doing under Charlie's Corner was I was recruiting women as they were going by to print their own t-shirt. And I did that in France and so on. And of course, these were all women that had never printed before. And so the guys are watching and they're doing the print and it comes out perfect. And it's like, why is she pushing? Because if she had to pull a squeegee, she would have had a mess on her hands. But by pushing, the chances of succeeding are that much greater, and because it doesn't take muscle anymore, it just takes body angle. But the reason everybody pulls is because of those tables initially. And if you go over to Asia and even parts of Mexico, they still have tables. In the US, I don't know anyone who still has a table. But and I think that they're losing out. I mean, I have plans for how to build them. And the nice thing with the table is you have no restriction on a number of colors. So a lot of the award-winning stuff that you see coming out of Turkey during the SGIA show is by companies that I've worked with. And they're doing, 40, 50 layers of high density in order to get a buildup that's, 3/4 of an inch thick. Well, you can't do that on anything other than on the table because, there's just no way of being able to do 14. Well, I shouldn't say that. Nowadays, with the 36 color, 56 or 54 pallet machines, you can probably do some of that. The problem is trying to set your off contact correctly. But the reason for pushing is it makes more sense. It ergonomically it does. um, even in terms of energy that you have to expend, you don't need as much energy to push as you do to pull.
Huh, interesting.
Carpal tunnel syndrome starts to drift away.
Yeah. Wow. I had no idea. Don't do a ton of printing, and I've always pulled, so I had no idea.
Because
I
the guy
totally agree
thought,
with Charlie.
you know, it was just a continuous situation. I pulled, and so the next person that I taught also pulled because that made sense because that was the only
Yep.
thing I knew.
Yeah. Well, I blame Terry Combs for my carpal tunnel then, even though I haven't printed a whole lot.
But
Cool. That's great information.
you know, I mean, that's my theory, whether it's actual fact or not. But to me, that made a lot of sense. Was when you went off of table printing and you got onto a manual press, you continued pulling. What's interesting, if you look at most automatics, okay, um, they flood out and they print to the center. And why do they do that? Well, that's where the best stability is. You're not stable. You're not as stable on the exterior as you are on the interior. So if you're on a manual press and you're pushing towards the center, you're actually pushing into the more stable side of situations versus um, not only that, when you're done with the print stroke and you've done a push, you leave your squeegee behind right there. When you pull and you finish your stroke, you now have to lift the squeegee and move it all the way to the front of the screen again.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So less time involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the deal, Charlie. You've got a microphone and a camera, and it'll be on the internet. So it is fact now. So just putting that out there.
By the way, this is all recorded. So if anybody wants to, you can send them over to my website and they can listen to this whole interview again.
Awesome. We'll definitely do that.
And the fact that you're recording it also?
Nope.
Ah,
No, I'm just saying you said it was your theory, but now that you've stated it on the internet, it's got to be fact. That's the way it works these
there
days.
you go. I need to put it on YouTube because YouTube only deals with facts.
That's right. That's right. Charles, that's right. Correct? Only
Yep.
facts over there.
Absolutely. That and Facebook groups.
Yes, the only facts there as well. I've been doing this for 3 months. Here's how you should do it.
I know.
Or on top of that, well, I've been doing it for 15 years. Well, just because you've been doing it wrong for 15 years doesn't make it right.
You know, Mark Bennett had the greatest line because I was going to do a job up in Canada. And he said, "Oh, you're going to work with Harvey. You know, Harvey's been in the industry for 10 years. And I said, you know what, let me correct that. Harvey's been in the industry for 1 year, 10 times.
That's a good one.
I thought that was a great line. And unfortunately, it definitely pertains to too many print shops in this industry.
Yeah.
They just didn't investigate other situations.
Yeah.
And continued not to, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you become unwilling to learn is when your business is going to run into problems. I don't care how long you've been doing it. There's always something new to learn. And that's what I think makes our industry so great is there are plenty of opportunities to learn. It's just a matter of, are people going to take advantage of those opportunities?
It's funny. When I finally got into pushing the squeegee, and it was because of the constant force squeegee, but then I went over to standard squeegees, which is what I still do. And listen, I'd been doing pulling for years and years prior to that. And I realized, it's a difficult change to get your brain to accept the fact that you're pushing and not pulling. And so I think they say, what does it take? About 3 weeks of doing something repetitively in order for it to become something where you're not thinking about it. I remember myself talking to myself saying, you got to push, you got to push, you got to push as I'm pulling the squeegee. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It literally took about three weeks of just kind of focusing in on, you got to push, you got to push. And then you have to learn how much of an angle to keep your squeegee on and how much pressure to use. But it definitely was one of those things that in going into other shops, it's like, why are you pulling a squeegee? And they don't have an answer. You know, the answer is, oh, this is what somebody taught me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a good answer.
Exactly. Exactly. And those are the kind of questions we have to be asking across our businesses. You know, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it this way? Is there a better way? Is there something I could learn here? You know, that's what makes a successful business as far as I can tell.
Well, I think that's one of the things that this pandemic has done is it's made you question a lot of what you do and how you do it. You needed to find faster and easier ways of getting the job out the door with less time and less people. And that's one of the things that I try to do when I go into a shop is, you know, it's difficult, you know, the old saying, it's difficult to see the forest through the trees. I go into a shop and, you know, I look at things very differently than the people who are working there. They're accustomed to seeing things a particular way, and that's the end of that. And so coming in with fresh eyes, you have a tendency of being able to see the things that they're not doing as well as they could. Doesn't mean they're doing them wrong, but they could do them better.
Sure.
And that's always been my whole thing about consultants. You know, I'm sure Richard ran into some of the same things. As a consultant, you know, what I always found interesting was I'd speak to an owner of a shop at a show, and you know, the question was, why should I hire you as a consultant? And so my question would be, have you ever hired a consultant? He said, well, yeah, I've hired business consultants. I said, okay, so you have a college degree and you hired a business consultant. Why? Oh, because they could help me out. I said, so why not hire a consultant for the back room? Well, I have a production manager. I said, great. And you think that guy has enough time to take a great analysis of what's going on and make adjustments? Guy is probably just knocking himself out to get everything out the door right now and doesn't have the opportunity to step back.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of times when you go in and you're doing consulting, a lot of the things that you see and that you're able to suggest, I think most of the companies actually know that they need to do that. They just need somebody else to tell them that they need to do that and give them that plan of action. So,
and also on how to do it. You know, I know you've obviously done some consulting over the years as well. And it's always interesting when you walk into a shop, how quickly you can pick out the things that are just not quite the way they should be.
Sure.
And you know, first question is, why are you doing it that particular way? I'm looking for a decent answer, and the answer would be, give me an answer. I mean, a real answer. Don't tell me because that's just the way I was taught.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to think in any
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Aaron, thanks so much for being on. I don't know if anybody has anything else to say or questions, but it was nice having you on.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And
I probably need to get Terry on here one of these times.
yeah, you definitely should. You guys can actually talk screen printing. I just sit and learn from you. So
I'm not sure, but I need to get someone like Terry on here anyway. But thank you so much for being on. It's really been good. This whole thing is recorded, by the way, so that if somebody does want to go on the my website, they can view the whole thing if they'd like.
Excellent. Well, I will send people that way. I'm looking forward to sharing with them. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for letting me share about our success group.
What do you have you heard anything about any new about any shows actually coming off? I don't know. Is Scott doing anything with the DAX show?
At latest with DAX, in fact, I just got an email yesterday, 2 days ago. Everything is still a go for Kansas City, which will be their first show at, I think it's kind of the mid to end of July.
Okay.
They've got approval from the convention hall for their plan, and there will be a mask mandate currently, but they don't know for sure. But other than that, it should kind of be, I wouldn't say business as normal. I think the footprint will look a little bit different than, and they won't be having any of the seminars other than workshops on site. I did hear from the folks over at used to be MDM, now Graphics Pro Expo.
Right.
They are still a go for Irving coming up here in May. So
Great.
that looks to be the first live show, is that Graphics Pro Expo. Also talked to the folks at Printing United, and they've got their plan approved for going forward in October in Orlando for the Printing United show. And I'm pretty sure Impressions has got a pretty good handle on their first show. I can't remember which one it is off the top, but I would say that there'll be some business happening live and in person at the end of this year.
Impressions or the Impressions Expo is the end of August in Atlantic City, and then a couple of weeks later in Fort Worth.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. So I knew that they were a little bit later, so they didn't make my radar yet. But yeah, so you've got Graphics Pro coming up here first. You've got a couple of DAX shows, and then you've got Impressions and Pretty United. So yeah, I think there's a really good chance we get to see everybody back in person here. Probably have masks on, but that's okay.
It's okay. Some of us needed masks anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say I look better with a mask on. So
mask, sunglasses, and a hat. Nobody knows who I am.
There you go. Well, but yeah, you'll have your glasses on though. We always know with your glasses, Charlie.
Gentlemen, thank you all for being on.
I'll try to improve my printing space, so I can be a success in this industry as well.
There you go.
It's funny, I was at a shop and had my mask on, and we ordered in lunch, so we had to take our mask off. The guy said, "I didn't know you had a beard and mustache."
Nice.
Funny. Charles, if there's anything I can do to help you out, let me know.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Appreciate it.
What, did you give up on me?
Oh, love you, Sean. Love you. How's your wife doing? All right?
She's doing well.
Good.
Yeah, just so you know, we've got some nice new composite patio chairs by the fire pit the next time you stop out.
I'm waiting for Eric to invite me out there again. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll make sure that when I do get out there, I get to test out the new patio chairs.
There you go.
Nice.
Gentlemen, thank you all. Hope to see some of you in about 2 weeks.
There we go. Thanks, everybody.
Got it.
Talk to you soon.
Everybody.
See you there.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sean. We'll talk to you in a little while.
Bye.